Hello and welcome. This is Aileen. The question below is from my book, How to Get Every Network Diagram Question Right on the PMP Exam. Let's solve the question together. From the figure below, what is the planned project duration? Assume all durations are in days. So when I think about a network diagram question, I ask myself, what is the question asking me to do? This question is asking me to solve for project duration. To do that, I know I need to do a forward pass. If you look in the bottom left of your screen, here we have a sample activity, activity A. To do a forward pass, I know I need to determine the early start of each activity and the early finish of each activity. Let's go to the diagram and begin with activity A. I'm going to say activity A begins at the start of the project. Therefore, its early start will be 1. Now, some of you are wondering, why am I using a 1 and not a 0? It's because I'm basing my method on the method that's used in the PMBOK guide. So again, the project starts on day 1. If the activity A is 2 days long, it's going to run on day 1, and then it will finish the evening of day 2. So its early finish is 2. Let's keep going. You tell me, what's the early start of activity B? So B will start after A ends. If A ends or finishes the evening of day 2, activity B will start the morning of day 3. If it runs 5 days long, it will run and count with me on day 3, day 4, day 5, day 6, and it will finish the evening of day 7. How did we get to that mathematically? I took the early start of 3, added the duration of 5, 3 plus 5 is 8, and then I subtract a 1 because I started with a 1, and I get to 7. Some of you now may be saying, I don't like that subtract a 1. Let's assume the project was just A and B. You tell me, if A is 2 days and B is 5 days, what's the project duration? Would you agree it would be 7 days? So you can see the method works. Let's move on to activity C, and I'll mention I always work in columns, not rows, but in columns. You tell me, or pause the video, what's the early start of activity C? Great, it would be day 8. If activity C is 6 days long, what's the early finish? It would be 8 plus 6, which is 14. Subtract a 1 and we get to 13. Let's work in this column and go to activity D. For D to start, B needs to have finished. If B finishes the evening of day 7, activity D can start the morning of day 8. Great. If D is 3 days long, 8 plus 3 is 11. Subtract a 1 and we get 10. What we mean is activity D is going to run for 3 days, on day 8, on day 9, and on day 10. Let's go up to E. E can start when C finishes. You tell me, if C finishes on day 13, when can activity E start? Great, day 14. If it runs 8 days, 14 plus 8 is 22. Subtract a 1 and we get to 21. Now we're going to look at activity F. This is a little trickier, but we can do it. We're trying to determine the early start of activity F. For F to start, both C and D need to finish. C will finish on day 13, D on day 10. So when will they both be finished? They'll both be finished by day 13. So F can begin the morning of day 14. Great, we'll try that again in just a minute. If F starts on day 14 and it's 7 days long, it can finish on day 20. That's the earliest it can finish. Now we're moving to activity G, and we're wondering what's the earliest G can start. For G to start, both E and F need to be finished. E will be finished on day 21, F on day 20. So when will they both be finished? They will both be finished the evening of day 21, and therefore G can start the morning of day 22. Great job. What's the early finish of G? 22 plus 4 is 26. Subtract a 1 and we get to 25. So therefore the planned project duration, back to the question, is 25 days. Again, this is Aileen, and this question came out of my book, How to Get Every Network Diagram Question Right on the PMP exam. That book has 49 other questions. I hope you found this video useful.